Hey, and welcome to my road. This is my road. Well, okay, not really my road, but I find that I end up walking on this road. This is actually the road that I grew up on. And it seems like in my life, no matter what's going on, I always end up finding myself walking down this road. They tend to be in pretty extreme moments. Like for me, I find myself walking on this road a lot of times when there is a lot of joy and anticipation in my life. Like I walked down this road the day before I got married. I went walking down this road just so excited about everything that was gonna happen. I've spent countless nights walking down this road on Christmas Eve. You know, that beautiful South Carolina, 75 degrees Christmas Eve. So excited about the next day and everything, because Christmas is like my favorite day of the year. But I've also had some sad moments walking down this road. Like there was a couple years ago, my grandma had a stroke and we didn't know if she was gonna make it through the next day. So I just needed to go for a walk. I needed to clear my head. Hey, chances are you have a place like that, right? A place that has seen more emotion in your life than others. For some of you, it may be your bedroom. For some of you, it may be your car. For me, it's this road. I tend to find myself on it. And now when I do, oftentimes I actually bring a camera along. I don't know, when it comes to me and cameras, I just think it's this perfect blend of like my nostalgia and me being a nerd just perfectly meeting on this road. I just like to take a camera because I like to take pictures. And regardless of whether or not you know how a camera works, you know what its purpose is, right? Ultimately, a camera's purpose is to capture a moment. And why I do like taking pictures, if I'm gonna just level with you, I prefer taking pictures when there's light out, because when there's light out, I actually can just almost point and click, right? And it's pretty easy. It doesn't take a whole lot of being a master photographer to take clear pictures when it's light out, because that's actually how the camera was designed. The camera has this thing inside of it called an aperture. And what happens is when you click, that sound you're hearing is the shutter closing. And what happens is the light is coming through that shutter and creating your image inside the camera. And on a bright day, there's a lot of light. So it doesn't take much, so that shutter can go really fast. And you can take pictures really easily. And I love taking pictures when it's bright outside, but also, if I'm gonna be real honest with you, some of the best pictures I've taken have been once it starts to get darker. But see, there's a different thing about lightness and dark. Because when you take pictures in the light, there's a certain strategy you use. You can take them very fast and get really good pictures. You can get things floating in the middle of the air, but at nighttime, it's different. See, if I was to take that same principle and I was to apply that at night, look what would happen. If I was to take the point and click and just shoot, look what you get. Right there, it's just darkness. Or right here, it's just blurry. Because what happens is there's not as much light. So this shutter has to stay open longer. Now, the problem with that is this: if there's any movement in my hands at all when I'm taking a picture in the night, it ruins the whole picture. The picture becomes blurry and useless. And I think the thing I've realized just as I've walked this road in good times and bad times, in darkness and in light, it's this: I gotta use this camera differently in the daytime as I do in the nighttime. And I can't help but think about like life in that respect. See, a lot of us, when things are going bad, we like to live as though they're not. We like to live as if everything is still bright and everything is hunky-dory. Oh, I'm gonna fake it till I make it. I'm going to do great. But here's the problem. At best, we're operating in this picture of blurriness. You ever go through crisis and pretend like you're okay, but on the inside you feel like you don't know what's going on? You don't know why God would let something happen? I know right now we have this entire thing going around our world in the form of this COVID sickness. But let's be honest, that's not the only crisis in life. There's tons. And I think one of the worst things we can do as humans is pretend that everything is light and chipper when really we're in a place of hurt. So we have to employ a different strategy. And interestingly enough, the strategy for how to use a camera in the darkness is also a strategy for us in life. And actually, the perfect pro tip for taking pictures in the dark is found in Scripture. Psalm 46 is a psalm written by King David. If you know anything about King David, you know that guy's had some ups and downs, hasn't he? Just in case you don't know, King David, he was a king, but before he was a king, he was just a boy. And the king at the time tried to kill him. So how stressful would that be for you? And then on top of that, he ends up having one of his sons kills his stepbrother. How as a father would you be torn in the middle of that, right? And then even beyond that, King David, he himself dug his own grave and had an affair. Can we just be honest? King David, he saw good moments in the light. He saw some moments in the dark. King David had his fair share of crisis. But in Psalm 46, he shares something. And I just want to share this with you because it's a great strategy for anything when it comes to the darkness. And it starts off like this, and I think this is huge. He says this, be still. King David says, listen, one of the most important tools that we have in our belt to fight the darkness is be still. We have to learn to calm down, because when we operate in that fast speed, you're not going to get to be able to have the focus and the clarity of your current situation. And that's exactly why he tells us that. He says, listen, sometimes you just have to stop. So let me ask you, what's the thing that is in your life that is not still right now? What's the thing that's running through your head? Or always? Or what's the thing that's running your life? I know for many of us, it really is this cell phone, right? Like this is a portal to get out of so many responsibilities. This is a portal for us to check out emotionally on the world around us. And a real interesting thing, it could be your phone, it could be video games, which I love video games, but it could be cars, it could be so many different things. But see, as humans, we are designed to face the thing that's giving us pain. But when we're not still, when we're moving, we're not facing it anymore. But see, what happens is this: when we enter crisis, we are designed to look at that crisis head on. But that requires us being still and realizing there's a problem. But see, we're not good at that. A lot of times what we do, instead of looking at the crisis right on, we put another thing out here and we focus on that other thing that's not the real problem. But see, it keeps us busy. And it keeps us moving. So we feel like we're doing the right thing, but we're not. Because David said it clearly, and I think it's true about every time it comes to darkness, sometimes the best course of action is for us to just stop. So let me ask you, what's the thing you run to when life falls apart? Like, would you name it? Like, even if you're watching this right now, would you write it down? Some of us, I dare say, if you wrote down the real thing that you're running to, you might not even want to look at that. Because maybe you've never acknowledged it to yourself. I know for me, I've had those moments. I remember the first time looking down and seeing the word food written. Realizing that when I have stress, I would go to something else instead of being still. But see, what we see in Scripture, see, the verse isn't just in there, because if you just say be still, like, what good is that? That's kind of like superfluous, guru knowledge. But there's a reason there's a reason David says be still. He says this, be still and know that I am God. David says, listen, I've got a message from you, from the Lord, and that's this, be still. And what happens when we're still? We can begin to know that there is a bigger picture. Another translation in that text, other than the be still, it says, quit fighting. Listen, quit fighting against the crisis and just stop for a second and realize that there is a God. Now, He's not telling us, that in crisis we shouldn't make decisions. He's not telling us that when the world's falling apart, we should just cower and just not do anything. No, he's actually saying quite the opposite. He's saying, listen, there is a plan of action ahead for you. No matter what crisis is in your life, there's something on the other side of it. But before you can tackle it, you have to make sure that you are seeing the picture clearly. And if you are just pointing and shooting like nothing is going on, at the end of the day, the best thing you're going to have is a blurred perspective on the reality of the situation. So that's why David says what he says. That's why God tells us that. He says, be still. And when we're still, we then can know that he is God. When we're still, we can begin to see the actual problem instead of our blurred things. We can actually see what's really going on. Now, here's the tension with that. That cannot happen as long as I'm holding this camera. Because as it continues to get darker, this shutter is going to have to stay open longer and longer for more and more light to get in. And now that's what we want. We want a lot of light to get in the dark because there's not a lot of light present. But here's the thing, if I'm holding this camera and I move at all, the whole picture's blurry. And that's why there's gonna have to come a point when you're walking at night and you want to get that good shot, that there's gonna have to come a point when you put the camera down. You're gonna have to put it in a place that doesn't shake anymore. You're gonna have to put it in a place that has a lot more firm of a foundation than your own hands. So that's why oftentimes when I walk, it's not just me in a camera if I walk at night. A lot of times when I walk at night, I realize that at my best, I'm gonna get a bad picture. I'm gonna get something blurry, something I can't see really well. So when I walk at night, I have to bring a tool. I have to bring this tripod because I can put my camera on here. And now guess what? It's not moving anymore. So you know what I get to do? I get to take that shutter speed and I get to make it as long as I want. And in the middle of the night, I can take the picture, I stand back, let the tripod do the work, and I have a clear picture. And when I zoom in, I can see everything clear at the back of this field. I can see everything clear at the front of the field. And that's kind of the point, right? Like when it's dark, we have to come to the point and we realize we can't manage it anymore. Our best strategy is to be still and say, God, tell me what you want me to do. And once he gives you that focus, see, that's when I can take this picture off of this card, put in my computer, and I get to see it get edited and turned into something absolutely beautiful. Because see, our crisis in our hands only leads to hurt and pain. But when our crisis is in God's hands with the right perspective and it's steady, we get something beautiful with the correct perspective that we can learn from. So let me just ask you, where are you running in crisis? I'm gonna tell you this, if it's anything you're finding on Facebook right now, probably not the right place. If it's that one weird uncle who always posts those conspiracy theories, probably not the right place. Where do you run? And I just want to leave you with this challenge tonight. Would you be willing to just own the thing that you reach out to instead of facing your problems? Would you just say it? Just say it yourself. Just own it. It is my phone. It is my worry about my grades. It is the friendships I have. It's my boyfriend, my girlfriend. Would you just own it? Because see, here's the deal. Once you own it, you can put the lens on it. And you can say, okay, God, put things in perspective for me. Now here's the thing. Once he's given you that perspective, this is what I would love to challenge you to do tonight. Just to ask God, what you want me to do with this? Because in crisis, we're not meant to just sit and cower. We're supposed to be still and know that he is God. And when you know that he's God, you have peace and you have direction. Thanks for hanging out with me on my road.